Welcome to the ATA podcast, where we talk to former elite athletes sharing their insights and wisdom derived from successfully transitioning into life beyond the game. A very warm welcome to the Athlete Transition Accelerator podcast. Delighted to be joined today by Lauren Ferreira, a former ladies professional golfer on the European Tour. Lauren, you're the first golfer we've had on the podcast, so that makes it extra special. A very warm welcome, and thank you for sharing your time with us today.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. So, as you probably know with the format of the podcast, we always talk about transition, what goes on after those sporting chapters. But that being said, we always love just to take you back into that period of your life. Obviously, a lot will have gone on, lots of different events, competitions, things that you can look back on now with the benefit of hindsight. If you had to pull out one or two memories from your sporting chapter as a professional golfer, what comes to mind? What do you look back on with the fondest memories now that you've retired?
Firstly, it's always nice to reminisce and think back to that time. It was a wonderful time. I loved the life of being a professional golfer, of the travel. I think one of my favorite parts was going to lots of different countries, specifically South Africa. The first time I went there was amazing. I'd never been to Africa before, and it was the first time that I really had an experience of the place. And I ended up playing quite well when I was there. So one of the tournaments, I came second, which was my highest finish as a professional. Obviously, I never got the win, which was disappointing. But I mean, now I can see that it, was still a good achievement. And then I qualified for the finals to the Investec race, the Investec Cup, which was also incredible, and got to play at an amazing golf course in South Africa, which is owned by Investec, and only sort of special guests can go there. So that was pretty nice to be able to play there. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. And when did your interest in the game develop? Just out of curiosity, I've got two young daughters, so there's a bit of self-interest here. They're both enjoying dabbling around the game. So when did you really sort of think to yourself, I'd like to pursue this? Potentially I could become a professional.
Mm-hmm. It's quite funny because I hated golf when I was growing up. My parents, especially my mum, is a big golfer. She is obsessed with golf, and she always wanted me to play, but I just wasn't interested. I used to play a lot of tennis. That was my first love, my first sport. Growing up in Wimbledon, I also think it's a requirement to play tennis. So yes, I didn't particularly enjoy golf. I didn't play when I was younger. It wasn't until I was 16 or 17 that I really started to play. I got injured playing tennis.
Right.
So then I thought, what can I do? My mum said, come to the golf club. She gave me a putter and a wedge. And I get very bored very easily. So I thought, okay, I'll go with her and start practicing. And I just became very obsessed very quickly with the game. I enjoyed the aspect of it being just me. So with tennis, there obviously had to be another person that I had to play against, and it was quite difficult to find people all the time to play with. Whereas with golf, I liked the solitude of it and being able to just play and practice, and it was down to me. And if I wanted to get better, then I had to go out and do it myself. I didn't need to rely on anyone else.
No, exactly. And again, full disclosure, it's a major passion of mine, something I've dabbled in and out of through my life. And I love the fact that, well, certainly at my level, you never quite crack it. There's always something to work on, and the importance of your mental aspects as well, which
Absolutely.
we'll come on to, because I'm sure that helps you where you are now. So what was the sort of two or three prongs to this question then, I suppose? What was the reason to step out of that professional world and into your next chapter? That's the first question. And then would you be kind enough just to give us a little bit of an overview, a sort of top line view of what you've done since stepping out of being a professional golfer and where that's brought you to today, really? Because obviously the journey of transition is always very nuanced to every individual, but it's always nice to start, well, what was the driver for you, and where has that decision taken you up to the present day?
Yes, it was. I mean, it was a very difficult decision when I decided to step away from golf. I think there was a lot of factors that were involved. It wasn't sort of one day I woke up and I thought, I don't want to play again. It sort of was a long process. And I would say I wasn't very good at retiring. I wasn't very good at stopping playing. So I originally, when I decided I was going to stop, I guess mainly money was a huge part of it. The women's game has grown so much since then, which is amazing to see. There's a lot more money involved, but still at the lower levels, even, the girls on the LPGA and the LET, if they're not quite at the top, they're not making huge amounts. And if you don't make the cut, you don't get paid. So it's a very expensive week. It's a very expensive game to play.
Particularly with the travel, the accommodation, everything that comes with it. You're running up costs continually, aren't you, Eve? And if there's not a return, I've seen that a lot in golf.
Yeah. And if you don't have the sponsorship, then again, it's also very difficult. And I found not having that financial stability was quite challenging, especially when I saw, a lot of my friends who were going into careers in the city and they had good jobs, good salaries, and they were able to sort of move on with their life and move out of the family home and sort of really move on to the next chapter, whereas I wasn't able to do that. So I think that was sort of part of it. I had a few niggles with injuries and things like that. But I just decided that I needed more stability and I wanted some more financial security. So I stopped playing. I didn't know what I was going to do. I did lots of varying jobs. So I coached golf for a little bit. I also worked as an estate agent as well, doing that for a little bit. I then decided I miss golf, so I tried to go back. So I went back and I played for a little bit and then decided, actually, no, this isn't for me. So then I fully sort of stopped playing after that. But yeah, that was sort of the main driver as to why
and
it
makes perfect sense. Often injuries can be a factor. You've touched on there was some niggles in there, but finance. I mean, I'm as I said, I'm very passionate. I love to watch. I've coached a number of golfers, and there's fabulous rewards, both male and female, at the very top echelons of the game. But there's hundreds of people who are so good. If anybody, layman's amateur hackers like me go and stand alongside and you're like, wow. But the difference between that level and actually making a sustainable living, it makes perfect sense what you're saying. I think it's also nice to hear your candor as well, Lauren, because we talk to a lot of existing athletes, all this fear and trepidation because they don't know exactly what they're going to do. And we often say to those athletes, that's the norm. Most of the people we talk to step out of the sport, explore things. You said I touched on a estate agency, I touched on coaching, and that's natural. And I think it's interesting as well that, actually, I'm going to go back in. Do you think it was a little bit of fear and uncertainty that took you back to what you know without putting words in your mouth there, Lauren? You're like, actually, I'm a really good golfer. I'm going to go back to it.
Absolutely. And my identity was wrapped up in being a professional golfer as well. I mean, that's who I was. That's what I was. That's all I'd known. As much as I didn't start playing until perhaps later than most, I'd always thought of myself as an athlete. My parents had been athletes. I always grew up thinking that, I played tennis, I played golf. That's who I was. And when I was a professional, yes, and I stepped away, I then was like, well, who am I now? What do I do? And yes, I tried lots of different things. There was the Dame Kelly Holmes Trust as well, which was very good. And they were supporting athletes in their sort of transition as well. They were more Olympic athletes, but they had me with a mentor, and he helped sort of guide me as to what I wanted to do. But it wasn't really until the last 2 years, I would say, that I sort of really have developed and know what I want to do now. And I retired in 2016. So
it's taken some time. And as you say, looking at that timeline, yes, you went to different aspects of the game, which again is very natural. Coaching. I saw you had a spell there as well as on your LinkedIn, caddy and management as well. So you've tried lots of different areas there. So what is it that you do now, and how did you make that next leap? Because as you very articulately said, you stepped out, you stayed sort of within the golfing sector, you were perhaps with that identity wrestle that was going on, you stepped back into the game, and then you came out again, and obviously that brings you to what you're doing now. So just give the listeners a bit of an overview of what your current role is, and perhaps you could just enlighten us at how you stepped towards that.
Yeah, so I yes, as you say, caddying. My husband is actually a professional golfer, so I caddied for him for a while,
Right.
and was looking to caddy on the DP World Tour for the men. I did a bit of caddying on the Ladies European Tour as well. Yes, going in and out all the time. But then ultimately, I decided when I was caddying for my husband that actually I wanted to do something different, and I was able, as strange as it might sound, to live vicariously through him. I got
Yeah.
that kick from golf out of him, out of watching him. I really enjoyed that side of it, but I felt that I needed something for myself, and something, a new career where I could grow and develop and learn. And so now I am a financial planner. So I work at a company called MKC Wealth, and I help clients with their finances, yeah, day to day.
Perfect. And I know it's not the norm. There's probably a lot of examples I don't know of, but I'm aware of Lee Westwood. I think his wife
Mm-hmm.
caddies for him. Knowing how frustrating and intense just amateur golf can be, I always think there's probably a stepping into the lion's den there if you're a husband and wife as well, and you're combining that relationship with the,
Yeah.
the pressures of golf. So I
Mm-hmm.
admire you for doing that. But yeah, whether that's sustainable over the long term, I don't know. So what I know there's so many skills within golf and within being an elite athlete. I'm always curious and like to ask the question about what sort of transferable skills have you taken out of that chapter that perhaps support you in what you're doing now in business? Because it's often an issue that's raised by existing athletes when we're talking to them, that there's a lack of understanding of, well, what do I bring? Going back to your identity point, I'm a tennis player, I'm a golfer, I'm a netball player, I'm a hockey player, whatever it may
Mm-hmm.
be. How am I going to carry that forward into the next chapter? And we like to sort of get guests to almost just spotlight some of the things that have helped them and make existing athletes think, oh, well, that's relevant to me as well. So is there anything in particular that you think I really honed that as a professional golfer and it continues to serve me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think as a golfer, because it's such an individual sport as well, you really have to be self-disciplined and self-motivated.
Mhm.
And that in anything you do transfers across, because if you have the internal drive to do something and you want to do something badly enough, then you will do anything you can to achieve that. So I think that's definitely something that helped me.
Yes.
And good organizational skills as well. You have to be very organized. I did all my own travel. I had to plan sort of my schedule and things like that. And that helps me in my day-to-day job now as well, just to make sure that everything is organized and in the right place. But I
Yeah.
think as well, coming from sports and then into a professional job in the city, I didn't understand the importance of being a professional athlete. People see it as being very unique and different. And I never fully appreciated that until I started working in the sort of corporate world. And I think as an athlete, you think of it as being very separate, but actually, that transferable skills, as you say, is really important. And a lot of people in business see professional athletes as very good employees because they know that they have the discipline to be able to do what they do every day. And actually, they would be, even though they might not have the skills for that particular job, you can always learn the skills that you need.
Yes.
It's being the motivated to want to do it in the
Yeah.
first place.
And that's so, again, it's a little bit like playing bingo, some of these interviews. You know, you don't know what the guest is going to say, but when you
Mm-hmm.
strike on something, you're sort of compelled to jump in. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no apologies on our side, Lauren. Anybody who's listened to every single episode, be like, oh, here's James again, reinforcing the point. But what you just said there is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
The employers like to employ elite athletes because they know they're going to get a set of traits, a
Absolutely.
DNA, a work ethic, a discipline, and they're more than happy to complement that by developing specific skills that they need. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to say, but it's so powerful to reiterate because for the existing athletes that are listening, oh, will they want me? Yes, they do. Elite athletes bring something to the table, and that is so important to give you a head start in that recruitment element. So I think that's really powerful. I'm just curious as well from a point of view of handling pressure because it is a solitary sport, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that, having played professional rugby union myself, that's a sport where you can lose control temporarily. You know, you can have a little bit of red mist, as it's called. You can be a bit overly aggressive to try and remove frustration. In golf, you've got to be super composed. You've got to be really in control of your emotions and be able to deal with pressure because the game requires it. So is that something that you were always aware of? Is that something that serves you now? Because again, there'll always be pressure points in any commercial journey, in any industrial role that we're doing outside of sport. Is that something that's helped you, or is it just something, well, I've never really thought about it? Just curious on that ability to deal with pressure.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was playing, I never thought about it, and it never occurred to me that I was different or that was, I thought it was normal. I thought that
Right.
the way that I dealt with pressure and all of those things you described, I just thought everyone did it. But now that I've gone into the corporate world, I can see that there is a difference. And when, yes, something happens, when there's sort of a small crisis, it doesn't really faze me because I have that knowledge of what I did in sport. And it's funny because the breathing techniques and everything that I learned when I was playing golf, I use them now. If I'm in a meeting, if I'm stressed, if I'm in a situation where it's very busy and I have lots of things to do, I compartmentalize everything like I did on the golf course. And I think that's a really powerful tool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't fully appreciate that that was a skill until I saw other people in the corporate world who weren't able to do it perhaps as well, or
Yep.
didn't know how to sort of use those skills as much.
Absolutely. Again, you're providing an invaluable perspective on that because we all know that what separates the top elite athletes from the rest is their ability to deal with pressure. And it's absolutely the same in business. Life's a lot easier when everything's going well, everything clicks, all the strategies working, everything with the customers is going well. It's when there are challenges at the lower level and crises at the higher level that you see the real character of people come to the fore. And it's another reason, to your earlier point, why we believe that employers love elite athletes, because they also get to see regularly, oh, they're pretty composed. They can deal with pressure and they can keep moving forward. So I think we've sort of wrapped up some nice transferable skills there. Just, I know it's a very easy question to throw out there, but it normally leads to some nice reflection. So just the position of do's and don'ts, Lauren. If you have the benefit of hindsight, that's what we're trying to share with everybody that listens to the show, listening to those athletes who have already walked the path ahead of them. If you had to pull out one do, and you perhaps talking to your younger self or anybody that's coming along behind you, whether that's in golf or any other discipline, and it's a do this, and it will make your transition out of sport and into industry a little bit easier. And on the flip side of that coin, is there anything that you would say, don't do this, with the benefit of hindsight, and that will also make your transition out of sport into business a little bit easier? What comes to mind on that question?
So I think for the do, it's the same with anything, but to surround yourself with good people and to make sure that you have people around you who can help you and support you. I was very lucky that I had parents and family who were able to support me during that transition. And talking to other athletes, talking to other people, listening to this podcast, listening to people who've done it before, and trying to gather as much information as you can about what it might be like, and not sort of rushing into any decisions.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. And just before we go on to the don't, was it those sort of conversations and speaking to people that nodded you towards the financial services sector? Is it something that was already bubbling when you were playing? There was an interest, or did people open your eyes to the potential of that sector as a consequence of those sort of discussions you just alluded to?
Yeah, so I never. My dad is a financial planner,
Right.
and that's sort of why I would say I probably got there in the end to this sort of role. But when I first stopped playing, it wasn't even in the sort of way back of my mind. I had no idea what I was sort of going to do. But yes, talking to people, talking to my dad, talking to my mum, talking to people who were in the job already helped me make that decision. And I realized that actually by doing this job, it was going to help me achieve what I wanted to achieve, and it was going to help me live the life that I wanted to live.
Yes.
So yes, having those discussions was important, but also I was very lucky. I had my dad as a role model for the job and for the role.
Yes.
So
And
I
that
was,
makes perfect sense. But I think the
mhm,
concept, you were very blessed, as you say, that your dad was there. We
absolutely.
love that notion of a role model, because a lot of people, I'm not sure, and that's absolutely fine. To anybody listening, I really don't know, I don't have clarity. It's nice to highlight what you just said. When you stepped out of golf, neither did you. It was at the
No.
very, very back of your mind. How
Mhm.
does that clarity develop? Simple conversations. And as we say to everybody, ask people, what's your role like? What do you do day to day? What sort of fulfillment do you get from that?
Mhm.
Maybe it resonates and you want to explore it more. Maybe it doesn't and you want to dismiss that. That's fine. But have as many conversations face to face, virtually as you can. Because one thing that is a universal truth that we say on practically every day speaking to athletes is most people are very generous with the time when you
Absolutely.
approach them respectfully and professionally and simply say, do you think we could meet or have a chat virtually? I'd love to ask your advice. Very rarely will you get a no. The only no you might get is, well, not right now because my diary's manic, but in a couple of weeks or in 3 or 4 weeks. People will always give you time. So ask the questions to get that clarity. So no, that's a great insight, Lauren. And just flipping it over to the don't, is there anything that comes to mind if you were to say, with the benefit of hindsight, don't do this?
I would say it's very difficult to do in the moment, but not to worry. That was one thing, I worried all the time. As soon as I stopped playing, it was very much, what am I going to do now? And
Mhm.
I had no idea. And there was a lot of worry and trepidation around that time. And I think trying to have that mindset that actually it will work out. And the amount of times that my mum said to me, it'll all work out as it's supposed to, and it did, but it took, I mean, nearly 10 years for me to get there. I tried a lot of things. And again, on the do side, it's trying lots of different avenues, trying lots of different things, as you say, speaking to people, but also trying not to worry so much.
Yeah, and I think that's a universal truth for us. Anybody who's listening, we get a lot of employers listening, we get a lot of athletes. Obviously, it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
where you are on your journey. It's so easy said, it's so much harder to do. But worry
Absolutely.
has to be the most futile emotion. I mean, how
Mm-hmm.
many of us are guilty of worrying about things that never even come to pass? Or when we have the benefit of hindsight, we look back and go, "Why was I so worried?" I think to step into that just one step further, the advice that I was always given, the advice we always share, and what I love to do as a coach is, when that worry starts to bubble up, focus on the controllables, because a lot of the
Absolutely.
time we start to worry about things outside of our control. And that controllable might be as simple as, I'm going to have a conversation with Mr. X or Mrs. Y. I'm going to just start there. Or I'm going to watch something or read something, and whether that's a podcast or a book, just to feel a forward momentum. I think forward momentum and a sense of control is a thermostat for suppressing worry. Conversely,
Mm-hmm.
when we don't do anything, we sort of sit there and we get almost stuck in procrastination. The worry sort of escalates. So I love your humility and candor to say it's taken a while to get there. But is it fair to say that you're very happy with where you've arrived? You're enjoying what you're doing, you're enjoying the role that you're in, and you've fully transitioned from that identity as a golfer. Is that a fair assessment now, Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. I struggled a lot with saying that, whatever my job was after I finished playing, I never fully accepted that that's what I did. Even the first time I went to go and buy work clothes, I found it very difficult. But now I love my job. I'm very lucky. I work for an incredible company who are very supportive of my husband's career as well, which is great. So yes, I feel very lucky where I am. Life is pretty good. As you say, it has taken a while to get here, but it was worth it, one step at a time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. And I suppose another question out of curiosity, because a lot of sporting chapters close. You might be, playing in contact sports, football, rugby, etc. It's hard just to dip your toe back into those. But now
Mm-hmm.
that you are fully transitioned, you're in your new financial sector. Do you still dust off the clubs? Do you still find enjoyment going out of the course? Can you approach it in a relaxed manner, or is that a bridge too far to be able to play regularly?
Yeah, so when I first stopped, I didn't want to play again.
Of
I didn't
course.
want to touch a golf club. I found it very difficult, especially when I was coaching. It was very challenging. I didn't really enjoy playing at all.
Right.
But since meeting my husband and he persuaded me to play a bit more, he again, I guess it's very similar to what my mum did. He gave me a putter and a wedge, and I went to tournaments with him. He put them in his bag and he said, just chip a few, just putt a few.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I I sort of fell back in love with the game, which was really nice. And now I can go out. I don't keep score. I go and I enjoy it. We enjoy a game together.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun game to play with my family as well. My brother plays, his family plays,
Perfect.
my parents play. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
a wonderful game to play with friends and with family, but I try not to take it too seriously anymore.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to hear because that's not always the norm. Sometimes people say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm away, I can't touch, I don't want to be near it. And it's
Yeah.
lovely to see that you've picked it back up. So just a quick fire few questions just to wrap things up then, Lauren. These are questions that, as I say to every guest, very much came out of our community. Some of the early feedback in the early episodes was, always curious to ask. So we started to embed those into the episodes and they've proven to be very popular. So just go with your gut feel on these. Don't worry if you haven't got an answer to every one, but I'll kick things off with what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? It could be to do with sport, it could be life advice. If there was one thing you're like, yeah, I'd share that. What comes to mind on that question, Lauren?
So I'd go back to the sort of the point of one step at a time. Just put one foot in front of the other. I think that's really important, is just trying to get a little bit better every day and just doing as much as you can every single day and just keep moving. As long as you're moving, even if you're going backwards, you're still moving, but you have to try and move forwards a little bit every single day.
Yeah, perfect. Great advice. Applies to sport, applies to life. So it's a great principle to live by. Is there a particular book that you would recommend, Lauren? Obviously, that's something that a lot of athletes have time on their hands when they're traveling, when they're around tournaments. There's a lot of podcasts that are very popular, a lot of books that are proven popular. So it's a question that comes up a lot. Is there a particular book that's had an impact on you that you would share?
There's so many books. I read so many different books. I think it's important to open your mind and listen to lots of different podcasts as well. I'm currently reading a golf book by Bob Rotella. Still reading golf books now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not one that particularly comes to mind. But I would say definitely reading lots of different books. I enjoy reading biographies and autobiographies from athletes and people who are successful. That's, I think, important as well, to read books of people in lots of different industries and how they became successsul.
No, well said. And funny enough, I've got a couple of his books behind me. I know one focuses very much on putting, one's on the wider game, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I've and some good advice. Very simple as well. Very simple in terms of his advice. So I like him. Okay, last couple of things. Now, this one's just a bit of fun, really. But if you were having a dinner party, you could invite 3 existing or former elite athletes. I know it stretches the imagination, but dead or alive, with special powers here. It's just, who would you enjoy an evening of good food, drink if relevant, and just good company? Who would be on the invite list for you?
So I would say Natalie Galbus, who was a former LPGA player. She was the first person that I went to go and watch when my mum took me to go and watch the Women's British Open. And I just loved her style. And for me, I'd always thought golf was quite frumpy. So to see her in her very cool outfits, I liked that. So I definitely invite her. I'd also invite Annika Sorenstam. Mm-hmm. She, again, was an incredible golfer.
Very successful,
Exactly. And then my third person, that's very difficult. Who would I choose as my third? I suppose Paula Creamer was also a very great golfer and still is. And I really enjoyed watching her as well. So yeah, let's go with three golfers.
It's a full house of golfers.
Yes,
I like it.
Three golfers.
It's always a great question to ask. It stumped a couple of people, so it's always nice to. Well, I'm not sure who I'd invite. And then we've had diversity. We've had sort of either dead or alive. So yeah, it's always nice to get that little bit of feedback. And then again, just a final question, really: is there anybody in your network that you think, anybody that you know that they've had an interesting journey of transition? They may be worth us approaching them and inviting them onto the podcast as a guest, because there's no better recommendations than referrals from existing guests that have come on the show. So is there anybody that you think, they might be worth us approaching?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few female golfers from when I was playing. We all funny enough, transitioned at the same time, similar time. So my sister-in-law, she actually was a golfer as well, and she played on tour, and that's how she met my brother. And she had a career as well, going into golf coaching, and she's now doing another transition into another sort of area. She hasn't fully decided yet. So,
and what's your sister-in-law's name?
Lo Blees.
Bowleys, right. Well, that could be an option. I'll follow that one up with you offline, and it's always nice to get those recommendations. So, Lauren, again, as we said at the start, thank you ever so much for your time. You never quite know where the conversation is going to flow. You've touched on a number of those themes. I love that life advice about striving to get that little bit better every day. I love the candor that you've shown, that it took a number of years post-retirement to really find your groove and find that happiness. I love the fact that you dabbled in different things, wrestled with identity, went back into the game, and then came back out again. So I think there's so much humility and so much candor in there that athletes will relate to, and I think that's been really inspirational. It's been a really enjoyable listen from my perspective, and I'm sure it will be for the community that listen to the podcast. So final thing is, if anybody wants to reach out and connect with you personally, and your contribution today I'm sure will prompt that, where's the best place for people to find you? Would that be on LinkedIn, for instance?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is the best place to find me. And again, happy to have a conversation with anyone who wants to reach out, if it's just for 5-10 minutes, whatever they need, just to have a chat. If anyone's thinking of going into financial services, or if they want to have a conversation about their transition, then more than happy to help.
Great. Well, thanks again. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us this week on our ATA podcast. If you found this conversation insightful and it resonates with your journey, please subscribe, follow the show, and stay connected with us for more insight, resources, and information on how we at ATA are supporting your preparation for life beyond the game.